6 bills.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting on March 2nd, 2021. We'll jump right into it. It's been a long weekend for some, but we'll carry. So can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And next is to adopt the draft minutes from the regular meeting of February 16th, 2021. There was a couple small changes.
Yes, your worship, for the record, you're listed as a counselor and Counselor Labonte was missed, and that's been corrected. And then the spelling of Elise Pendlebury has been noted on the record as well.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes from February 16th as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. All right, motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $110,554.44.
Make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. Any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
No thanks.
All right, moving right along. Where did I get to? Second reading of bylaw 2103, the 2021 tax rate bylaw. I would just like to make a couple of comments regarding this.
Mine says third and final reading.
Yeah, that's the amended.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what we amended, okay.
Yeah, we're on the second. So again, I would just like to reiterate the incremental increases for tax rates. I know that we're all so far decided on a 0% increase. I did just want to mention and give a couple of examples of what a 1% increase would be. I'm sure you guys had that in your package. I'm not sure you had a chance to take a look at it, but as you can see, it's very marginal. So for instance, myself would be paying an extra $19.
They're picking on me too, yeah.
Yeah, John's in there, so $16 increase for John, $24 for Councillor Slaker.
If you only count one lot.
Okay,
But there's no assessment. When is the next assessment increase?
we don't know that.
No, I know we don't do it, but when does it do it? Okay, that makes a heck of a difference.
Well, with their big increase last year, I would hope that it would be, I don't know if they do a 5-year or if it's a annual increase, and it's based on all sorts of factors that, so I couldn't tell you that.
It's done every 2 years.
Every 2 years?
1 year, it's just a basic. The second year, it's a full overall one. So next year will be your big
So
increase.
there could be assessment increase and then possibly a tax increase.
Next year.
Yes.
Yep, I'm just floating it out there because there's always going to be more costs. You know that every single government under the sun is going to be increasing taxes of some sort. So, our union has an increase of 1%. Our managers have incremental increases. Our costs are going to go up. Everything goes up.
So I just want to consider that we are trying to encourage people to build houses and create businesses in our community. So to me, it seems counterintuitive to then go and tax people that are already doing these things. It's my opinion that one of the most important things that we need to do is densify empty lots in our community, and that is a really excellent way to bump up our taxes. Our base rate tax for empty lots is $600. And you can see on the package that my lot, which is just a tiny little 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, my taxes, I think, are just over $2,000. So just by having a building, that gets us $1,500 more a year. So I personally would much rather see the taxes raised a significant amount on empty and derelict lots over punishing people who already have homes and businesses.
Well, I would agree with that, but the empty lots owned by LFN, does the feds pay taxes on that or?
INAC.
Yeah, so we can nail that.
Well, just for the record, the worship that we can't target them, we have to target everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think that that should be the case. I don't think that they should be the ones targeted. Like, I think whoever is hoarding empty lots and doesn't have anything on it is just as much in the wrong as the feds not developing empty lots in our community.
Valid comment, but yeah, I just want to just reiterate that the incremental costs are there, and every time we do a 0%, it raises the risk of having to do a larger one 2, maybe 3 years down the road. Right. So 3 to 5% increase because we did get ourselves out of a hole, but no saying we can't find that hole again. So
Do we know how many vacant lots there are in our community? Just like off the top of our head, I know that's probably really random. Is there any way that we could make the money up off that instead? Like, I would be happy to vote on raising the taxes on empty and derelict lots.
well, that would be outside of the mill rate. So we could ask for info from administration.
It does say in the bylaw that it's $600. I know that's.
You have to do a minimum, but here's the thing, on those empty and derelict lots, they used to be 500 forever.
Yeah.
Other councils had the same idea, went to 550 the first time I sat, and then it was $600 that we raised in our very first year. And Ruth doesn't agree with me, but it was 500 once upon a time, and it was 500. And then it was 550, and then now it's 600. So I look at it and, you know, I'm myself personally, I'm desperately trying to put together something. On the one hand, I look at it and say, well, an extra $50, an extra $100, okay, well, I guess I'd have to swallow that. But it would raise everyone's, like, by 1%, you're gonna be hitting your, like, if you look at a lot of your lowest income people, a lot of them, their tax rate is barely $600 for a trailer, right? On a lot of places that, like, how do I say this? You'd be taxing the poor.
Not taxing the poor, you're taxing people who are rich enough to own properties and not have to develop them. The people who own empty lots in our community are not poor people. Poor people don't own lots.
You look at that like that. But at the same time too, if you don't have any money to, you know, I agree with you, Aaron, that it should be raised or provide some sort of incentive.
So is that, sorry, Thomas, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
That empty lot, is that within the mill rate? Like, I don't know.
No, it was in
It's in this bylaw.
the bylaw. Yes,
In the
it is.
bylaw.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
so it's in our mill rate bylaw. So right there, vacant commercial.
Minimum tax for the year will be $600. So that is something that you guys can amend, being it's. Those are options you have on the table.
Yeah,
But it's not just $600 either. It's also the, you pay your garbage bylaw as well. So it's actually 600 plus another 240 for each one.
Yep, and it's still comfortable enough that people have owned empty lots in Watson Lake since
Yeah.
I was old enough to remember them. So it's obviously not that uncomfortable yet. It's not fair that there are people that are holding on to lots and doing absolutely nothing with them in our community. And the community is expecting the town and the government and LFN to go out of their way and bend over backwards to get more lots developed when we have close to 40 empty lots in our community. So how can we go and say that we need these lots when there are people that can't sell their lots in the community because there's such a surplus of lots? And when people are like literally sitting on them because it costs them nothing to do so.
Well,
$600 is nothing.
for some people.
Well, we also have like $113,000 in delinquencies.
Mhm.
If a few of them would cough up, would,
we're working on those too.
Yeah, well, that's something that's been going
Yeah,
hard.
actually making headway, I believe, on a lot of those, which is great, which hasn't been done for years, so that is great. But I don't disagree with you, Aaron. I think that $600 for people is obviously too comfortable, so before we come up with a decision on this, we should maybe come up, is $1,000 too much?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Is it, what makes people uncomfortable and make them want to develop something, put something on there? What is that? What is that development?
and maybe even like, I know that, and just because we're and we chatted about this, one of her concerns is one of her lots are considered vacant, even though they use it all the time. So do we need to have different categories for empty lots, or maybe there's some, I'm not sure, but anyways. I just think it's a little bit of a gray area and we need to put some pressure. And there does need to be room for people who are trying to make things happen. There does need to be room for people who do use lots, even though they don't have buildings on it, but.
Yep.
Anyways,
Lauren, any comments?
No, thanks.
Do you have any suggestions from administration on the empty lots, tax rates?
It's the topic that's discussed at length in between all the CEOs in all the communities.
Mhm.
And no one has been able to come up with the magical answer on how to address it. Other communities have done it, the rate stays at they have a policy where it stays at a low rate for so long, and after 5 years and the development hasn't taken place, then it jumps to a higher rate. So there's some carrot dangling there to try and get people motivated to do it. But it's something that all the communities struggle with, and there has not been a magical answer yet.
so we have an AYC meeting coming up on Saturday. Do you think that that's something that we could bring forward? If it is something that's affecting all communities, like that's a really good pot of resources that we can tap into if it's something that we made a priority with AYC.
But I honestly think that because it's not the only way it can be mandated is if Yukon government had a policy but you can't go back, right?
No,
They can only implement, AYC can lobby government to ensure that they've followed through, which they are now on any new lot they sell, right?
Yeah.
You have your 5 years or your 2-year clause based on the area, but you can't go backwards, and every community does have this issue, but everybody's different on how they want to address it and what they want to address.
So I don't mean by trying to get the government to do anything. I just mean that like we have used our collective resources to hire consultants to solve big problems that face all the communities. And maybe this is an issue that is worth considering
I
or
guess,
something like that.
yeah, it would have to be part of a motion or resolution going to AYC, which they would look at in May, I guess.
Yeah, that's the-
It's something that USG could bring forward and ask to see if anybody else, maybe the other communities aren't concerned about it, right?
yeah, could be. I dare say that we're all facing a housing crisis in every rural community and even in Whitehorse, even with all their houses being built, so.
Well, that's definitely an AYC issue. If all the communities have the same problem.
Yes, it just depends on if they can come to if it's something that they can come up with a solution that everybody
Could live with.
live with, right?
But they are calling for right now, those types of ideas to bring forward to the EGM. So if this is something that we want to bring forward, we could. And if you guys have any other things that you'd like to bring forward, I'd be happy to do that.
I think a territorial wide policy on unused and vacant lots is something that is worth looking into. I mean, it's going to be different per municipality. It's not going to be universal, but
Yeah, there's so many different ways to solve the problem. Is it a policy? Is it a speculation tax? Is it encouragement money? Is it tax breaks? Is it a combination of all of them?
I don't know, I think development, everyone wants to buy, nobody wants to build. It's pretty tough to build something and really this is not gonna affect me in about a year's time, because I'll have everything that I own with me. So not even speaking about myself, but I know what a pain in the butt it is. I don't know, I'd like to see us get creative and figure out a way to work with somebody trying to develop lots such as our tax forgiveness thing we have for like new and rental buildings. Which is also being underutilized as well. It's just there's a lack of investment. There's just not a lot of money kicking around is the big problem. Like I'm sure Cecilia Stewart loved to rebuild her house, but she just didn't have the money to do
Well, I
so.
know, but it also wasn't for sale, for a really long time. And it sat there derelict for a really long time. And all these properties are not for sale. There's no for sale signs. They're not listed anywhere. Like, it's not like it's, hard times. If it was hard times, the properties would be for sale because they need the money. So
But yeah.
like, if you want to develop it, it's fine, but sell it.
Situation is different. I don't know. I dislike the pound of flesh approach.
Well, we're getting a little off topic, so if you guys are fine with the second reading, we'll go ahead with that. I really think maybe we'll think about that empty lot cost, what's uncomfortable. And I mean, we could put a 2-year speculation of some sort of percentage increase for the time being, that can be changed, it can be repealed. But for third and final reading, or to give some idea to administration soon would be ideal. So did we get second reading? Did we get a second motion
I
for
don't think
second
we
reading?
need a motion.
Sorry?
I don't think we need a motion.
No, you did not.
I'll make a motion for the second reading of bylaw 2103.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thanks for the hand to discussion. That's good. We gotta work on that because obviously incremental increases are gonna cost.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen, so.
Is there a way that we could, maybe for the third and final reading, just have an idea of what it would look like or what the revenue would be for, say, a $25 or $50 increase on the vacant lots? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Recommendations. Thanks, Cam. All right, so moving on then, number 5 is to repeal bylaw 2001, being a bylaw to establish a recreation review committee for the town of Watson Lake. Our reasoning for repealing this is the in-depth look that we need to actually have in our recreation department. So can I have a motion, please?
I'll have a motion to repeal bylaw 2001.
I'll second that.
Favor? Carried.
It just seems sad that, the recreation department has a $1 million budget. And we don't have anybody watchdogging over it other than whatever. And if we repeal this, I'm thinking we should take a close look at possibly changing the name of the rec center to Parks and Recreation, so that people could get a clear picture of how much it actually costs to run the rec department and how much we spend on Parks and Recreation.
You were on, sorry, John, you were on our Zoom, right? And I think we discussed this, maybe it was afterwards. I think we were having this
Okay.
discussion because exactly, you're right. It has to be kind of separated. It's not technically recreation that has the $1 million budget. Parks is in there. The Northern Lights Center was in there. It's not in there anymore. There's a couple things that can be separated out there to give an actual picture of recreation it costs. And then to see what, Watson Lake wants to do as recreation. I think that it's kind of changed in the last few years, and I don't think it's taken on properly.
It seemed like it was gonna be a bigger job than what was gonna be
Yeah.
attainable by just one volunteer or sub-council committee. So we just need to reevaluate how we're going to.
Yeah, well, we can
Assess the whole
discuss it
situation.
later.
Yeah.
Sure. Unless you have anything else right now, that's fine. Yeah, we can do it. We'll do it in the council open forum if you like. All right, moving on. Camp CAO report. We had our motion. Yeah.
That's what you just
Yeah.
said.
We're all good.
Yeah, so just a couple updates. Got an update on that the plow truck should be here they're hoping by the first week in April, which doesn't really help us for snow this year. Getting all kinds of excuses out of due to Alberta being on lockdown and they're affected their productions, so apparently they're limited on how many people they can have in their shop to work. So it's really backed things up. Progress is coming very nice on the new municipal services building. We have another inspection tour slated for Thursday where all engineering components will be down along with the builders rep, infrastructure, myself, Charlie and Chad will be on site for that inspection. Just to make sure everything's in line where we're supposed to be and if we're not missing anything. Last tour, we picked out that there was a missing airline coming over to the firewall side. So that's been addressed. So little things like that. We're also trying to look at getting some little more efficiencies over there, being the asphalt crew is going to be down this summer. So trying to offset maybe concrete for asphalt to see which is more durable and cost effective for us. So those are things that we're working on right now as well for that site. And trying to get those through. Working on an updated tangible capital assets policy. The old policy, I think, is from the 90s that we currently have. So I have penned a new one, and same with an asset management plan policy for you guys. That'll be coming forward in your next meeting for review. And working on other procurement stuff like gravel crushing and that type of stuff. And other than that, that's all with the way the shortened week was last week. Comments from the vaccination team was they were very happy with the turnout for the vaccine clinic. First day was 430 people. That was up from 390 the time before. And I put a request in today for the numbers from the second day, and they haven't been able to provide me with those numbers because whoever has them isn't sharing them.
And why?
Don't know. And they're worried about communities going against each other and all kinds of excuses, but the person that had the number wasn't at work today. So anyways, they were very happy with the numbers. A lot of first doses this time around again, which was nice. And there was quite a few people that did have some side effects from the second dose, but according to the medical people, that's actually a good thing. So, so that's where we are at. I'm dealing with Lance Branch, LFN, and First Casca, dealing with some solar stuff they're trying to do. They're looking for maybe an OCP change and some zoning changes. So that's something I think that mayor and council need to discuss with chief and council. Because they told us they didn't want to do some spot zoning or didn't want the town to be doing spot zoning, but now they've come back and asked for spot zoning for their own project. It's needless to say, but I think that's something that his worship is speaking to chief about. So I have a conference call with them next Wednesday to discuss it further. And yeah, so that's all I got for tonight. I'm sure there'll be more questions after open forums.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just to update on the clinic, yeah, there was some, because Watson Lake actually had a really good uptake, there's some communities that had lesser uptake, and they didn't want to create competitive who's doing better with the vaccinations in the communities and la-di-da. So they won't be sharing numbers of what we got to. Yeah, because so that's where that's coming from. Hopefully, I'm sure we can get our hands on some numbers, but it's not really for public.
Did they say anything about people that like this is their first time getting it this time around? If they're gonna come back, or they're gonna have to go to the clinic, or do we know anything about that?
I met with them on Tuesday morning. They're still working on a plan because they have that 35-day window they're playing with. So they're trying to figure it out. They were gonna look at how many first doses went out this time to see if it's worthwhile them bringing the team back down again, or if they're just gonna be maybe bring a few people down, or maybe just have public health do it. So those are all questions they haven't answered yet.
I know for a fact that there was actually a couple people that got their second dose at public health today.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, people that were out of the community.
Yeah, for their second dose.
Yeah. And the other thing that we're sort of in debate with them about too, is the fact that they were basing our population numbers for everybody above 18 of eligible people at 1,221 people for Watson Lake. And I have a hard time with that because in our CMG stuff, all our funding is based on full population, not just above 18, and they're talking in the 900 range. And then all of a sudden now, when we're talking a vaccine, 18 and older, they're talking 1,221.
That is our catchment area number, our whole area for
Well,
southeast.
For 1469 is what they're saying in other documents for the catchment area. So they're all over the map, but if they're basing it on Watson Lake, then we need to address how their funding is under the CMG as well. The other communities have noted the same issues, and YG themselves has said that there is such a discrepancy. So those are something that I'm sure is going to get talked about in the CEO open meeting on Friday.
Is it because we have people with Yukon Healthcare living in other places?
Well, it could be, but they said in the numbers, the 1,221, that didn't include Lower Post and Good Hope and those things. So it only included Upper Yard and Watson Lake. So there's lots of confusion. So those are questions that the CEOs are asking, and we have CEO meetings all day Friday. So.
Well, do we get a per capita grant?
Well, we're hoping.
Okay, thanks, Cam. Excellent. I'm sure there'll be some questions. New and unfinished bylaw 0908, being a bylaw to provide for indemnities and expenses to be paid to the mayor and councils of the town of Watson Lake. I'm sure everybody has seen by this point the mayor and council remuneration for 2021 for all the municipalities. I think it's worth revisiting for the town of Watson Lake for reasons. We want a strong council. We want people to be dedicated. I'm not saying that we aren't, I'm just saying that, going forward, I think that it's worth looking at to, maybe encourage, maybe to, sweeten the pot, if you would, for people to be dedicated for the term. I think that a couple of these structures within this is worth looking at, attending events, not so much, but extra meetings can get a little taxing.
Extra
Committees, there's a few things. So since we're just doing first, it's not reading, it's just for review. So we're not doing anything with this, but it being an election year too, if the community's not cool with this for us, then they don't have to.
Yeah.
It's okay for the next, right?
Yeah.
So
The implementation date, if you guys did something, would be at the end of your term. So this doesn't affect your term, it affects the next election. And that's usually when these are looked at, is at the end of the term. So it's not
Just
you're not putting it for yourself, it's for the community as a whole moving forward.
Well, we do have one of the lowest.
Yeah, like looking at this information that was provided, you can see that it's obviously a time for a review. So
Yeah. I think that by having it as more of a volunteer and less of a paid position, we're counting out people who can't afford to work for free. And I think that their voices are really important. So I definitely think it's time to review this.
I think in our growing admin, like it's not that our admin can't handle it, but they could definitely use some assistance, and you get someone who's a little more dedicated with a little more time. It's going to be, advantageous for everybody. And I think that's just the way Watson Lake's going. So we can revisit this, add feedback, comments, any kind of thing. We just need to know how you guys feel about it, ask around, see how people feel about it, see what people think. And,
Well, I'm retired, I don't care.
so you're not running next time.
Do you think that we could share this remuneration to our Facebook page?
Being it's not our information, I don't know if we can share the other community's information.
Okay.
It should be public,
It
but
should be, but I'm not.
get some clarity on it.
Yeah.
And if it is, then we can just say we're looking to restructure. This is what other
The other
communities are
communities.
doing. I don't see why it wouldn't be.
And some of the other communities actually have a COLA wrote right into their policy, so this was their bylaw rate, but yet they had, minimum cost of living increase rolled in. So every January,
In what year was it last increased?
ours was in 2009, so ours is 12 years old right now.
Okay.
So 12 years, things do change. So
Yeah.
And I think we
We're the
did,
lowest. Oh, Aaron already said that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're I think it is the lowest or the second lowest. And also, I mean, just like the amount of regular scheduled meetings that we have, $600 a month plus all the committees and everything else that we sit on the side, it's a lot.
All right, so we'll be
Well,
looking.
for a community similar size, I think we were somewhere within the ballpark. I looked at Dawson,
Well, they're about 50% more than us.
they were a little higher, but
Yeah. But I mean,
Dawson's counselor rate is the same as what our mayor is. There's actually more than our mayor's rate.
you look at the village of Carmax and it's
Haynes Junction as well.
Haynes Junction as well, less people, less, it doesn't mean it's less work, but
But it also could mean, John, not even necessarily just an increase in money. It could be like, we're gonna pay the mayor this much, but you're required to be in the office 2 days a week for this many hours. You know what I mean? Like, it could be not just necessarily more for what we're already doing, but maybe we need a part-time mayor, not just like.
Or if the base is lower, but you get a certain amount for attending certain types of meetings, which would make it so that people are like pulling their weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or you're at least you're getting, like maybe somebody does have time to go to more things. You're getting reimbursed for the time you're putting in.
Yeah.
But also there's, you could have one part-time counselor as well.
As long as there's not like you're having coffee at Tags. I'm like, oh, that was.
No.
You know what I mean? Like an actual, you know what I mean?
it has to be applied for. It has to be a warranted meeting. It's not
You know what I
gonna,
mean? Like,
it's not gonna be because I went to the family dinner.
oh, I know.
Some of these places have it broken down, like exactly how many hours like constitutes a meeting or whatever, so.
It just needs a little more in depth and I really feel like it might encourage people that, like Aaron was saying, that,
Yeah.
have the time, but not the,
The-
they want to make some money to do
Yeah.
it. And I think that's only fair because it is a lot.
It's
And
a
if you
job.
want people to be dedicated and totally
I definitely,
engaged, you need to kind of sweeten that a little bit. So,
the extra boards and committees that you sit on should be rewarded.
and just the regular attendance and what your expectations overall are. I mean,
And just given the fact that it's been 12 years.
Yeah,
we're-
I don't know, it's only
In itself,
12 years,
so.
yeah, it's been a while.
So if you guys would just ask around, see what
Yes.
people think, give admin some feedback on how you feel about that, that'd be great.
it just tends to be a touchy subject with the general public
Oh, of course.
more than anything.
It's finance, it's fiscal response. It still can be fiscally responsible though. We're still looking for people to carry their weight.
People, we didn't raise your taxes this year, but we give the councils a raise.
Yeah.
Well,
We want people to carry their weight. essentially.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not trying to leave the bank, obviously. Okay, so anyways, moving on. We got a draft district energy report, which was very detailed.
Very detailed.
Could be dry at points, but it was very good. And there was a lot of great information in there, lots of learning for myself, and
Yes.
for the other counselors. There is some comments about some upgrades or some inspections that need to happen in order for us to carry out just about any of it. So due to the fact that it is a draft, it's not for the public yet, but we're hoping to have it to the public soon.
And your worship, just to go along with the recommendations, some of that's in our 2022 capital budget expenditure projections already. That you guys approved. So the $400,000 to do the assessment of the actual district heating pipe. And then other things that we need to look at, and I've been stressing it since I've been in this position, is a backup heating source at the rec center, right? So those are two big things that this report's confirmed. And it's, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of good information, and there's been comments back in between the different people involved that there's some tweaking and wording. And then the other thing that we've asked for in this report is that, yes, it says that if you look at option A, it might cost $2.4 million, but it's going to say it's going to pay for itself over the next 20 years or whatever. But that was only the savings based on the fuel not being consumed during heating at those locations. It doesn't give us, they didn't have the revenue line in there for us. So
Right.
we're charging for district heat back to those sources. They might be saving 130, but we're gonna charge them 120, right? So that part wasn't put into those scenarios, so I've asked for that and they're working.
Okay.
And it was 8 years ago, it was in our capital budget, to put a backup heating system in because of just cost overruns. It was scratched or for whatever reason, but I remember the number being like $400,000. It was either like, I want to say it was 175 or 425. I don't know why those two numbers are sticking out in my mind, but like, I don't know what they had in mind for that, but if we still have that on record somewhere, won't we, Terry?
Yeah, we have it upstairs.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it was in the capital budget at one point in time and what they were thinking and what it would cost, so we could use that as a starting point to jump off from.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I'm working with the consultant to try and come up with those estimates on those things, right? Yeah, no, it's something that will come forward and that we can actually put a vision on so that way for 2022 or 2023, we know the dollar amounts. It's something that I asked for in the retrofit on the building, but being we haven't got that money approved yet from Ottawa, we have to be proactive in case we do have to come up with it in-house. And it might be an eligible expense under gas tax. So those are all avenues that I'm still pursuing at this time.
But we are pursuing,
Yes.
because it's necessary.
Yeah, it's necessary. Yeah.
But the saving, I mean, how did they establish the saving? It's gonna be dependent on the price of diesel.
Yes. Yeah, it's based on our formula currently with Yukon government for this high school. It's based on, I think it's 80% of the cost of by BTUs, but it's based on, they know that a liter of oil produces so many BTUs of heat. So there's the formula that works out, there's so many X's and Y's in there, but it comes out with, works out to about 80% of what they're paying for a liter of diesel fuel.
Anyways, it was a great report. There was some interesting options and it'll be interesting to see what that inspection looks like.
Yeah, that's huge, because if the inspection comes back saying that our in-ground piping is in a state of failure or gonna fail, then we have some really hard choices to make coming up.
There's some contamination issues.
It's an interesting read. The only thing that really strikes out to me is this one pump. Apparently, they talk about this pump, that if we replaced it, there'd be a considerable energy savings thing as far as electricity goes.
Yeah, going to the variable speed pumps.
So that's where I would think
Yeah. So
priorities might want to be.
yeah, but when my phone conversation with them, they said not to even do that until we inspect the pipe, because we might be throwing $25,000 at something that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right?
Pump, yeah,
Right.
pump glycol into the ground.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. All right, we're gonna move on to the draft cemetery concept. Again, a very well presented concept. I think it looks great. There's a few little minor things that we could maybe talk about, but overall, I think it looks great. Any comments, feedback from council? You have a chance to look at it?
Yep, I have a couple comments, and honestly, well, few of them, so first of all, gravel is not accessible for people with disabilities, and I don't think that we should use it. I think it should all be concrete, something somebody can get their wheelchair down. There's lots of seniors getting out there, and
Accessibility is definitely.
just make it, yeah, and not only that, but like, look at what we're doing with our gravel walkways in Wye Lake, they just are hard to keep up and all that. And the only other thing I had, other than please make sure that there's recycling bins along with the garbage, is that the shrubs along the front, again, we have them in Wye Lake. They're really hard to maintain. They take special care. That care often doesn't happen, and for that reason, they don't look that great. So I would love to see a native shrub like wild rose or something along the front instead of something that doesn't grow here naturally. That's it. But it looks great. I love it.
Yeah, looks good. Like
Right
the
up, so nice.
poplars along the front. Well,
Yes.
naturally, they have leaves, so you're gonna have to have somebody raking them in the
Yeah.
fall and things like that. I just question, they talk about the 4-inch curbs. And
Yeah.
in this country, curbs are not the greatest idea because you have to plow snow.
Maybe do without,
Good call.
Hmm?
do without.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
I'm flat.
But the layout
Accessibility,
is great.
yeah, and I like the amount of, the increased availability is huge, right?
Yeah.
Because we were worried about not having anything, and what they're delivering is quite substantial compared to what we thought we had, so.
Yeah.
With your worship, with the proposal, that's about approximately 20 years worth of for lack of plots, yes,
Yeah.
not volume.
Um, yeah.
And the other neat feature is actually the family plots, which would be four family plots together. So that's always something that we're getting requests about, that people can't be very close to loved ones. So
Okay.
But there's definitely gonna be more maintenance. So I would think we're gonna have to raise the plot fees or something.
Yeah. And that was part of the contract, is for them to actually rewrite our cemetery bylaw and present the fees and schedule stuff to go with that, because we are, compared to the rest of the world, we are a long ways from where we.
I can see at the very end, it just won't load, the plants that they're gonna use, they're using lodgepole pine and poplar. Like, obviously, they'll have to put the poplar in, but are they planning on just like leaving some of the trees, or they're letting them? plant
Well, there's
them?
no trees in that area.
There's no, okay, I just can't visualize it. I thought it was right
It's all
beside.
leveled. Oh, there's nothing in there.
It's just a fence there now.
Actually, if you go to page 2, you can see where the crosses are. It's just a gravel parking lot.
Oh, for some reason, I was picturing this a different way.
Maybe you were
Okay.
thinking of the old.
The older,
cemetery area.
the older section.
layout.
And we're gonna have to do a bunch of work in the old section, because a bunch of those graves are starting to collapse in the old section. But it's gonna be handwork, so it's gonna be work we're gonna have to do with either summer students and, to wheelbarrow and fill and clean up. There's a lot of
Maybe
work
there's
to be done.
funding for it to be historical, or, I mean, it's gotta have been there for a long time.
And I'm not sure, and I'm really hesitant to address things under historical, because then it really.
Comes in.
So,
Ties in that piece of land for,
whatever.
okay.
Okay, well, I mean, if they're planning on planting, then I just like really wanna stick, like, if I had my choice, I think just native plants to the Yukon is so important. They're easier to take care of.
And maybe not trees that shed their leaves and you have to rake up every fall.
Oh, man, they're gonna be so pretty though.
It would be pretty.
And you can just mulch it right into the grass and it'll look so good for the dirt. Just
Not sure there's gonna be grass, but.
Or I mean, to the ground.
Okay.
No to grass.
So this is draft, so
It's just a concept. So it was brought to you guys so you could have a view of it, and then provide feedback to me to take to them, and she's gonna eventually present to council, but I'm trying to get it so it's a streamlined thing, so we're not having her present and then she has to go away and come back again. I'm trying to make it so when she comes, it's a streamlined process, right? It's not bouncing things back.
Are we gonna pass it by the public then? or-
Yeah, yes, and that's part of the bylaw and the review
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, it's all public as well. So since she did do the survey, the cemetery survey went around, and there was quite a good turnout, 42 people, I think, filled in the survey, which for Watson Lake is very well.
So did she give you any kind of timeline? So it's gonna get to.
Very quickly, because she wants to discuss with me this week or next week, and then come back. And she's also the one that's working on the landscaping stuff for this admin building as well. So
Was there a prize associated with that survey?
no, not the cemetery one.
Gotcha.
The only other comment I would have on it, and maybe they've done this already, but is to just consult with LFN to see if there's any traditional elements that perhaps could be included in the design.
She reached out to them when she was doing her survey and stuff too, so.
All right, fantastic. moving along. RCMP January 2021 policing report.
Are they ever gonna zoom in with us for one of these or?
You guys haven't requested the comments?
Oh, I thought that they just
Their new
came
boss
on.
come once a new.
It's supposed to, the new constable, they're getting a constable from Depot, who should be here by the 15th, and the new sergeant should be around the same time.
So when they get here, we'll have them come and request them come and.
Yeah.
Give us.
Maybe
an
they-
update.
Could they just start coming back for the committee of, what, they were coming in every once a quarter?
Yeah, it depends on when their report, like, meeting date, but yeah, their policing report usually comes out about 3rd or 4th of the month. So, yeah, we can have them to whatever meeting you guys want, you just gotta request us.
Okay, we'll tell them we missed them.
I saw them out in Forest this weekend. I saw them.
Yeah.
Yes,
Good.
there was obviously a blitz of some sort.
Yeah, they were.
People downtown getting pulled over.
Do you want to
Good.
speak about the request from them for those for 3 months?
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Also, well, since we're on the top of the RCP, they have an option to actually run an extra member here for the next 3 or 4 months and not transfer somebody out. So that way that the recruit coming from Depot can get training and we're still at full strength for policing. So they've inquired about the possibility of renting the CAO house for 3 months, which is currently sitting vacant because we haven't started, we're having an issue. And I know we had concerns about when the request from the doctors because they wanted a long-term lease, but this is a 3-month request, 3 to 4 months request, where they would rent the house and that way we have somebody in it and it's being used and we're getting some income back to cover that period. So that's something I brought forward to his worship and just wanted to make sure that you guys are all in support of that.
I think that's a great idea.
That's reasonable.
There's no holes in the wall, you know, how rowdy those.
Parties.
Single gun money, there you go.
A rookie to boot. All right, we'll move to Counselor Open Forum. Any questions, John?
Yeah, well, back to the rec committee and, what I envision with the parks and recreation, the parks is separate. Now, the parks could also possibly look at getting a corporate sponsor, say for the playground and some things like that to kind of reduce. And it seems in most towns that there's a little park that is, the Lions or some other group or a mining company or something like that. And I just think that the parks portion of this, and I really think we need a committee to look at how we're going to structure that. Because the last thing you want is to get another bureaucracy in parks and have a bureaucracy and maybe there's no way around it. I don't know. Because that's going to increase your costs.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they have it now, we see, quite a few people from the community center working at the park and putting up the lights and So we have to be able to keep them moving, or keep the opportunity for them to move back and forth. But by the same token, then, you have to have a way of determining how many hours to put here and how many hours to put there. And I would think that if we go that route, that this summer, you just have this going on so that the bookkeeper can establish what the costs are going to be, so that when we do their next budget next year, we would have them separated and just a thought, that's all.
I think you're on the right track because I think admin's kind of on the same page.
But again, we need a committee.
I think though, like, oh, sorry, do you want to go first?
I was just gonna say, I think for the parks part, I think it's a matter of separating out those costs and hours put towards those different department. Like it's a separate department.
Yes.
Essentially, it needs to be recognized as that, and we need to determine how much money is being provided for parks. versus work at the rec center.
Yeah.
Completely separate. It's, I mean, there's two different things going on there. And yes, it is pretty much, it's Parks and Rec. It is the rec guys that are doing all the park work. But maybe there's some shared opportunity for public works in the summertime. I don't know, just spitting that out, but, right? And as far as the recreation side, maybe that's the committee that we're looking for, because parks is pretty, you know, once we see what is being spent in our parks department, we can adjust from there. Whether we like it, or whether we don't like it, or whether we need sponsorship, or whether we don't need sponsorship, right? But we don't know what that is yet.
But like the recent capital upgrades, like for instance, the new thing by the cabin, that's not an O&M thing, that's a capital, isn't it?
Yeah.
The new sewer
Well, that's the,
system.
yeah, well, there's a water, we were looking for a water container. Yeah,
Septic tank.
was it septic? But yes, that's capital expense.
And it's maintaining the trail around the lake, and stuff like that. That's all
Yep.
parks, and Lucky Lake is parks.
Well, that'll be in there as well.
I think that we need some help to do that. Like, I think you're right that we need a committee, and I don't think that anybody's saying that we don't. But I think what we are saying is that it's too big of a project for one counselor who's basically volunteering their time to take it on themselves. And not only that, but not a single person in this room is a recreation specialist or a park specialist or a convention, because that's a whole nother side of our Parks and Rec department as well, is that's a convention center essentially. So I think thinking about maybe hiring a consultant might be to help us direct what we're going to do, because you're right, it does need to be separated, but you know, the parks are recreation as well, and it's going to be more and more outdoor recreation in the future years with COVID. So
It's just such a giant project.
that's right. And it does.
And it's an important one.
It's important, that's right. And it also includes economic development and tourism. And there's so many of these pieces that fit in that I just think that it might be beyond our scope, and it's certainly beyond administration's capacity. And it's definitely beyond mine alone, or Lauren's alone.
Yeah.
So I think just asking for help on this one is what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, consultant, I mean, I hate consultants personally, but committee, you know, at least like to have a committee look at it.
Yeah, I hate
Saying we need a
hundreds of
consultant.
thousands of dollars on projects that we don't know what we're doing though also.
There has to be direction from us. We have to say, well, we want to establish this type of what. You know, so we would have to come up with that even if we had a consultant. Go ahead.
Yes.
My worry is that by having that we create another position of another manager over
Well,
something,
that's what I was getting at. too.
right? So if you do that versus like, I don't know, like why it's so difficult to say this is a park job. Here's my piece of paper. Rec, parks.
Because we need way more than just like saying whose job is whose. We need an overarching plan about
No, but
where
I mean,
the
like
community is going.
your manager could say like, okay, well, this is parks. So I have this
It's
staff.
like
member, this
bigger
staff
than just the employment of the
That's-
building, like it's.
I know, but like-
Concept of recreation versus convention versus whatever for the community going forward.
And like we're
So
spending
you have to
millions.
create another position.
It's not about creating
not
another
about-
position. It's about taking this big budget that we have and making sure that every dollar is spent wisely. It's not just saying, oh, well, we have a rec center and it's open. It's saying like, we are spending that money and our community is getting the best bang for our buck, but we literally don't have the tools to even tell how to spend those dollars. We don't have anybody in this organization who even specializes in that.
I know,
So
but
how
like,
can we make-
listening to the mayor, he was saying that, in order to figure out what you need to be able to figure out what's going where first, right? And that's just a simple, that's an accounting item. That doesn't have a committee to figure out if someone's working at Y Lake today or at the rec center. Like, it's as simple as like, you're doing this, that goes in this column. You're doing this, that goes in that column. That's a,
But I think
managerial.
that's just a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole thing, is what we're saying. That's just a piece. Like the project is this big.
I think we're all on the same page that we need to revisit the Parks and Rec situation.
Yes.
So we need to maybe that could be, we will have to maybe have another town hall meeting. Maybe we can
Yeah.
discuss that. Maybe we can have that in-depth conversation, again, always need feedback. It's been a bit of a not sore part, sorry. It's been difficult to manage because of the cost, because of what it is. I mean, we're just losing interest in that rec center because it's not appropriately used. So we need to just revisit that and separate parks. And yes, it is just a number game, but we need to know what that is. We need to know what that number is and whether we're happy with it, or whether we want to decrease it or increase it, right? It is, but if we ask for it within a year, then we'll have a better idea what we're looking at. It hasn't been separated to the best of
That's what I'm saying, like, you figure out you don't need a committee or a consultant to.
No, but that's just the beginning part.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, but you gotta start somewhere, you can't just start running, you need to walk.
No, but it is a huge, I think it's a longer and a bigger project than what this capacity of this.
Yeah, it's not,
Yes,
it's not
that's
an easy.
the point.
Yeah, and we're gonna try and, we'll bring this up more. Well, we're not ending it. It's a conversation we need
More
to
discussion.
have, and we'll maybe have a town hall meeting. If we can ever do that again.
No, on the repeal, somebody brought up today that we already had a recreation committee. Now, basically, all they do is the lottery funding and stuff like that. But the gist of the conversation was perhaps that's why nobody was really interested in being in the recreation committee, because there was the assumption that there was this other recreation committee,
No.
although it is very limited.
They're definitely separate. And I think this one was to try and come up with, this committee was originally created to come up with an overlying direction for administration and recreation. And it's just a lot bigger than what any kind of committee can handle.
And the Recreation Advisory Committee, their job has nothing to do with advising recreation on how to do their job or anything like that. That is not the mandate of that group at all. The mandate of that group is solely to give that money out. It is
Yeah,
nothing
no, I
else.
realize that, but
Okay.
that was one of the comments that was made. Now,
But also that they were two separate entities. I think there were a lot of people that were confused about that they were maybe the same, but there were two committees,
Yeah.
but I think we're at a very critical crossroads, because we
including the people.
had this COVID thing where everybody's getting it for free.
Mhm.
And next fall, we're gonna have to have a fee schedule. Now, whether we go back with our old fee schedule, or there's gonna be a lot of negotiating that has to happen to get that thing operating again, the way it was operating.
Like free.
If,
It's free for March. It's free for 3 months because of COVID funding. So we go back to regular fee schedule. It's just what it is.
On March 21st,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know what,
the date?
you set a date for that?
March. March 31st is when it goes back.
But exactly, but I think coming out of COVID and the change, there's a different, what's the word? Energy, let's call it a different energy for recreation or whatever it may be. So it'll change. So we continue to have this conversation. I don't wanna, we can beat it over the head tonight, but there'll be some comments on it, I'm sure, the gallery. So we'll bring it up again. It's not forgotten. We'll definitely, if there's some insight that anybody has on this, we'll continue to have this conversation. Okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Anything else, Sean, other than the rec?
that's basically what,
Okay.
well, now, like I had been working on this proposal for kayaking and stuff like that. My big problem is I still haven't got anything from Aaron on what that tourism committee has done, so I don't want to duplicate anything.
I know that you're waiting for it, John. I don't have it. I don't know what else to say. When I have it, you will have it. I have three jobs, and I'm doing this on my own time as a volunteer. So you just have to be patient, unfortunately, and you'll be the first person to get an email from me as soon as I have a report written for you.
Well,
It's been a bit of a tough year, so you'll have to give me a break.
I'm getting older, I might not make it.
Well, you know what? At least I won't have to hear about it anymore.
Thomas, you got any questions?
Not right now.
come back to you.
I don't know if this is out of line to say, but are there plans to remove some of the snow from downtown? Yeah,
Where downtown?
well, just like where those giant snow banks all over the place, kind of makes it hard to.
The ground
Ground.
intersection,
Yeah.
safety issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on them, but
Okay.
they're.
It keeps coming.
Coming.
All right, that's
We're
all.
having this
That was all.
issue where Department of Highways keeps moving snow into places.
They're giant, that's all.
Yeah, and it's their mandate, but anytime we keep trying to address corners, the one that today I brought forward was the one across from the Dragon's Den here, across from the intersection. So, because coming from on 9th, 8th, coming 8th to you hit the stop sign by the old gateway, and that's fine, the service road, but then the minute you hit the highways have it piled up. So you have to creep out the intersection. to see.
Yeah.
So any of those ones along the highway, we're fighting with.
Okay.
highways on.
That's all.
The other streets, we are tramming stuff from intersections and stuff. It's just a long process. A lot of stuff like that.
Probably gonna get,
Would it help if we wrote a letter to the minister?
I don't know. We've been trying to deal with it. It just, it's the other issue is that they're trying to keep the highways open, so it's.
Well, there's lots of dump trucks in town they can hire.
Yeah, that's, we gotta get them to that stage rate.
Yeah.
So we're more worried about the flooding that's potential. that's
yeah.
coming, right?
That's it for me, thanks.
Just an item of interest, Doug Bell, he's doing a book on, and Doug Bell used to look after our airport years ago. And he's writing a book about the history of the communications up the highway, like when they had developed the microwaves and stuff like this. And my understanding is there's a fair section of the book that talks about Watson Lake. So, this book's supposed to come out here probably in the next month or two, and it might be interesting reading for some of us.
Okey dokey. Aaron?
Nothing for me.
Right. I had a couple of comments. I am working on a shared meeting with chief and council. I've asked Colleen to set a date because it's harder for her to wrangle them than it is for us to wrangle ourselves. So I told her to tell me when we can have a meeting and hopefully we can be available. Hopefully I'd said not Friday night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's when they do a lot of their meetings. So, yeah, I
I
know,
mean,
I know.
Ew.
We will make it happen, but I get that. And, yeah, there's a couple other things that we're working on, so I'm sure we can discuss that. Like Cam brought up the solar farm issue, so they're looking for an OCP change. So all they need to do is have some OCP input. And then we can have everybody win.
mhm.
This is another conversation we'll have with Elephant. My other comment was maybe if there's an asphalt plant coming to town, that maybe whatever that company may be, there could be some shared cost. If some of the businesses are looking into it, if there's information on that, on whoever is going to be doing that, there might be some interest throughout town. I know that people have asked about it in the past and the asphalt shows up and then they leave. So,
No, once we know who gets their contract.
Yeah.
We will make sure the words in there.
we'll reach out to that company and ask if that's going to be something they're interested in. Okay. That's it for me. All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
No,
Oh, shoot. Sorry,
not even close.
the cow.
This is a committee of the whole, so we're gonna have the committee, or sorry, the gallery ask any questions with regards to our agenda. So I will read through the list and Janice says no. Perfect. Thank you, Janice. Jerry, do you have any question?
There you go.
Can you hear me, council?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. A couple of comments and a couple of questions. I was listening to the district heat report and I was looking for direction from council as to what you have in mind for the next short term and what direction you want to give to the district heat committee.
Was that a question, Jerry? I just, what we would, after a discussion, we have to wait for some initial reports and inspections to be done before we really want to start placing direction on the district heat committee.
Okay, I don't want to agree with that particular suggestion, so I would recommend that we have, as a committee, talked about what we'd like to see done. And we as a committee would like to meet with council specifically on the written report so that you can have some of the thoughts that we've had. And I'd like to set a time for that within the next week or two.
Well, if you could reach out to admin, they'll get out to us and hopefully we can come up with a time. I can't speak for everybody at this point in time and it's always hard to schedule on the fly. So if you want to reach out to admin and give them some options when the best time for you might be, we can try and convene.
Okay, just for clarification, Mr. Mayor, are you saying that council is not making a decision at the moment, that you're moving this discussion over to the CAO?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is a committee of the whole. We don't make decisions most of the time on committee of the whole. This is a draft. We were advised that we were looking for input, if you would, and that the major part of that report that was presented is a big chunk of inspection that has to be happening before we can even move for any kind of direction. So like I said, if you'd like to reach out to admin and give them some available times when your committee would like to meet, we'll do our best to send representatives to meet with you.
Okay, the second item, since that one's not going to go very well, in terms of the recreation facility, the recreation report, council members are correct that it's a must. Yeah. And although John has his opinion about council consultants, I think it's time to look for that type of support for the council. I also think it's time, I want to support very much a need for a town meeting to give some advice directly to council, because the use of the recreation complex is very definitely not satisfactory to anybody that I've talked to. And I think we're thinking too small in terms of the use of the facility. And I'd like in a council or in a public meeting to enlarge on the idea that the Recplex is a much bigger facility than just go there, lift some weights and go away. The recreation complex is a health complex. It's meant for healthy communities. It's meant for all of the community, native population as well as non-native population. I know you're working or trying to work with the First Nations, but I really believe that now is the time to come together with First Nations to put the Recplex on the table and say to the First Nations, look, this facility is for all of us, not just for the non-native community. This is for all of us. And I think it's time for all of us to come ahead with some suggestions that Recplex can be a community health center, and it can be in harmony with the First Nation, and we can do it together. And I'd like to see a full discussion on that one. I guess the other thing I would say to council is that I think the timing is really perfect for that big plan, PLAN, a big plan that Aaron's talking about, because I think council needs the help from the community to put in perspective some of the big things that are happening. And a lot in terms of economic development is going to happen with the First Nations. And I think it's time that we very actively encourage and promote the partnerships that have been thought about, but not yet talked about. So we really encourage a public meeting. And if COVID can take place in the rec complex and we can do it safely, then I think we can hold a big public meeting as well and make it a town meeting that's larger than the last one that was called. But thanks again, council. You're in an interesting time of development. And by the way, I do think that you should set up a short-term committee to get some thoughts on the financing of council over the wages of council, and let an independent committee do that, so that the next council doesn't have to put that on their agenda right off the bat, because that's not very conducive to a good start. But keep up the good work. Look forward to the next council meeting.
Thanks, Jerry, for your comments. TRW Toshiba, is that you, Ruth? Go ahead.
Hi, nice to be back home, and especially with it being so warm. This empty lot thing is something that is,
You haven't heard some of those comments.
Jerry, you'll have to mute your mic, please.
yeah, the empty lot thing is something that is a concern for us, which I've been told to write a letter to the council about it, because we do have an empty lot, but it's not used as an empty lot. It's very well used for our business. And yeah, we used to pay, I think it was only a couple $100. And then about 10 years ago, I think it did a big jump to 500, and then it's been going up since then. There is no garbage charge on it. So, because of course there's nobody there. But yeah, I don't know if everything always fits into the same one. And then I don't know how come they have, I think it's because there's not a place of value, like a building of value or something. I'm not sure why it's been put as an empty lot. But yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Ruth. Look for your taxes to increase.
He wasn't joking.
And welcome home. Happy quarantining.
I'm surprised they let her in.
Okay, so sorry, Ruth, was there anything else? Are you good?
She's gone.
Okay.
Regents.
Vigents.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Chris. I have no questions. I think you guys are doing a pretty good job. So I'll leave you with that.
Thanks.
Pretty good, eh? Thanks, Jerry.
My taxes haven't gone up that much, so you're doing a good job.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. So if that's that, there's no more committee of the whole. We don't have any in camera. All I need is a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.